My understanding of air tightness testing is that it doesn't require major preparations within the dwelling. It shouldn't need shelves, etc., cleared. I mean, I've been in a property when one's been undertaken, and whilst they are pressurised to some degree, it's not like there's a howling gale rushing through the house. So I don't think we'll need massive preparation on behalf of the occupants. I think it basically is, I mean, as it stands, we are contracted to undertake a test in every property. So I think in the circumstance where weather, other conditions would make that impossible for whatever reason, I guess we could fall back on your own data. But certainly it's our intention to have a consistent approach of us doing it in every property. Sure. No, I think that's a challenge that needs to be overcome, but I appreciate, there may be circumstances on, where we can't undertake it, and we'll have to, if there is supplementary data you could provide, then that will have to take its place, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point, really, that's come up on Tuesday and a bit more today, is really, we haven't discussed monitoring of particles with the TSB as yet. I think we do appreciate if you're looking at a property and we're measuring energy use in a property, that is going to be, in a terrace or a semi, an impact if the neighbouring dwellings are unoccupied, unheated, etc. So I think we need to have some further discussions on how best to approach this, and understand, I certainly wouldn't want to extend the monitoring or much physical monitoring to neighbourhood properties, because that just brings with it a lot of complications. But we have, for example, undertaken heat loss measurements through walls using heat flux meters in the past. That's something that can certainly be done. It's quite an art to do it, and there is the downside as well that requires equipment to be fitted to a wall, connected to a data logger. It shouldn't be disturbed. There's going to be issues if there's occupants in there, but we can certainly come up with some guidance on that. I think, from my point of view, it would be excellent, but I wonder how the funding of that monitoring would work. I certainly think there'd be some economies of scale possible with our data acquisition system, could potentially, and the smart meter, to say that, could receive communications from other nearby properties. I think the terms of our sort of agreement with the TSB under the project is to focus on the specific dwelling that's been applied for, but I would certainly see the possibility of extending the data collection if possible, yeah. What we've said with that actually is we recognise the difficulty of measuring the actual performance of heat recovery ventilation in the field. So whilst we're requiring measurements on the ventilation system, that will basically be looking at flows and energy use. Where heat recovery is involved, the document that we've developed is basically proposing to use the existing performance calculations that the manufacturer or other person would already have done with it. Difficult to measure it in situ. Sure, I mean, that would be really useful to 3 similar properties, different levels of interventions. Again, I think in terms of our work here and the funding, we would have to focus on the property you had grant funding for, but I'm certain that there could be economies of scale and extending that to other properties, yeah. Well, that sounds brilliant, because I think the point to make is we've set out specifications for resolution, accuracy, frequency of readings, etc. As long as those are being met, then that's great, and you have the added bonus of some baseline data before you do any work to the property, which I think, if time allowed, that would have been the ideal thing to do across all the properties. So I think as long as we received data, because I think this is what we're trying to say really, I mean, we can either do everything for yourselves, we can do some of it, and we can advise you on doing the rest. I think as long as the data comes to us in the format that we've specified, then we'd be very happy.